Welcome to Video Village. I'm Mihir Shah, and today we're talking about two movies, Poor Things and May December. Poor Things is one of the front runners at this year's Oscars, and one of us liked it and one of us hated it. Priya, why did you hate Poor Things? I want to just get right to it.
I like not only do I hate this movie, I keep telling everyone not to watch it. Like I just think it's useless to watch. Like it's not like I'm like, oh, it's my opinion. You can have your I'm just like, don't watch it. It's not necessary.
Wow.
I think it's a
Is,
waste
is
of
it your
time.
least is it your least favorite movie of 2023?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
That's incredible.
And I
That's
watched
actually
Puss in
incredible.
Boots. Actually, Puss in Boots is kind of good though.
Puss in Boots 2?
Yeah.
Wait, first of all, that came out in 2022. Second of all, that movie's great.
No,
That
wait.
movie's
Oh
like
yeah,
an
it did
8
come
8 out of
out in
10.
2022. Yeah, you're right. That's really good. But I did fall asleep in the middle, so I don't know what happened in the middle.
That's on you. That's a good movie.
Anyways, back to Poor Things. I hated it. I was thinking about this all day today because I knew that you were going to ask me this question. And I think I distilled it down to two reasons why. The first reason is that I just don't like, I think that all the actors are not actually doing something that creative and amazing and different. And I don't like that everybody keeps applauding them. I think that they're good actors, obviously. And like, it's not their fault that that's what they were given to work with. But I just don't think that it's a new concept to have a woman be like unencumbered by societal norms. And I don't like how it's being displayed as a new concept. And second of all, and definitely most importantly, it's fucking boring. That's it.
Let's talk about the first part first, 'cause I think it's a smaller topic. I think that I agree. Like, I mean, if you really, I don't know about you, but I did not stop thinking about Barbie once I understood what the movie was doing. I was like, oh, this is very similar in the sense of like it's about a non-human woman, or like a non, you know what I'm saying, like a non-real woman, uh, learning what it is to be human and what it is to be human in our world, and then learning from that, adapting to it, and becoming her own person. Um, I thought both movies were funny, so I guess I disagree on the boring part, but there were boring parts of Poor Things, no doubt, and we can get into that, like the specific parts soon.
Yeah. And and to add to like your comparison of the two, or I guess your like just reflection on both the movies, I think that the clear distinction is that like in Poor Things, for comedic effect, or maybe they're making a statement, but I don't think whatever statement they're making is very important anyways. They choose to both infantilize and sexualize the main non-human female character. And I just don't think it adds to anything. It doesn't add to any like philosophical discourse. It's just also like it just so is like weird. Like okay, this like European man decided to make a cool arty film that where he's trying to make a statement, but it's like not a statement that any woman has not known for their entire life.
I'm sure that's true. I don't think that like anything really on screen was that revolutionary. Which is I think like I guess what you're getting at, and let me know if you're this is wrong, but like this is how I feel, especially after the Oscar nominations just came out, and Poor Things is yeah, I think it has 11 nominations.
That is literally a crime. Like it's a crime. They're getting like that's so when Emma Stone has like won every single fucking award in the past 2 weeks and goes up on stage and she's like so beautiful and like amazing. I have no problem with her. She makes like a great, compelling speech every single time. I'm like, how can this be the movie that I liked La La Land. You gave her an Oscar for that. Good. I'm happy. It's done. It's the same girl. She's doing the same thing. She's just like a cutesy little girl. She's like, I just love boys and blah. I just, I'm done.
Okay, so let's like break this down. I think I agree that this movie is overrated in like the award circuit because I watched it and I was like, oh, like I don't feel at all what you feel. I feel like, oh, this was a good movie. I had fun. It was slow at parts. I think at times I was like, oh, maybe that's something interesting it's trying to say. But by the end of it, I was like, very similar to Barbie. I actually like, for somebody who actually did not like Barbie's ending, I actually think Barbie had a better ending than this movie,
Uh-huh.
um, where they were pretty similar. And I still feel like, oh, this movie is like vastly overrated. I don't really understand the hype
Yeah.
about it at all. I mean, it's fun to look at. I get why Emma Stone is getting a lot of praise, but I also agree with you that like, are we like this blown away by like the argument people make is like she shows the development from like baby to adult pretty well even in like a physical sense like I the big picture people were saying even on their Poor Things episode like they have young children 1 2 year old children and they saw the 1 year old to 2 year old progression represented in Emma Stone's work to be really accurate and I was like oh that's pretty fun to know like she actually
Yeah.
mapped it that well but you know that I think the first hour of the movie was my favorite part because it felt like there was a lot of promise.
Yeah.
And then once we get to the boat and she starts to read and learn and like
Yeah.
learn about the world, I found a lot of that to be like pretty pretty basic and like pretty stupid, especially the part when she goes to Alexandria, Greece, I think. Or
Oh my God, that was literally white feminism. Like I
yeah,
was so
I
confused on how
agree.
like nothing about that entire sequence made me feel closer to her or made me feel like I did not like resonate with her at all. In fact, it just like made me more confused about why I was sitting in the theater watching that movie.
Yeah, so for the listener, like if you haven't watched it or just forgot, like she goes and ends up seeing like dead babies on the street and like starving people, and the man on the boat played by Gerard Carmichael, who I think was not that good in the movie, but that's neither here nor there. Basically, it's like you can't really help them if you go down and try to help them, like they'll probably like kill you or something and like eat you or something. He says something like
Yeah,
that,
he's
like
literally like they're hungry and you're like fresh white skin. And I'm like, this is so stupid. Why am I
yeah.
watching this? Oh,
Yeah, I think like the boat plus that moment, I was like taken out of the movie for the first time, and then was struggling to get back in at times. Um, I think the only fun part for me after that was in the brothel when Emma Stone's character is like basically like challenging the norm as to like how sex works when it's as a business and like the power she holds in that place and like almost like entrepreneuring a brothel, which I found to be like funny but also interesting and like some really like good visual moments that were like sometimes played for comedic effect, sometimes made me uncomfortable, and then sometimes we're just like I don't think I'll ever forget when like the kids are watching the dad perform sex on Emma Stone and they're like coaching. Like I thought that was like funny, but
yeah, and they
also
have
like
like their like notebooks out.
yeah. And she's like choking sometimes helps get into completion. I was like, holy shit, dude. Um, so yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that. Basically, like I don't think this movie is like saying anything that's so crazy. I actually think that like for what it's worth, in terms of like cinematic things to say in a movie, I almost think Barbie actually had more nuanced things to say about like the patriarchy and stuff, while like I guess like making it funny and relevant and staying in their little compact world. Where Poor Things felt so outsized, and I was like, they're just like saying things and kind of poking fun at everything, but who cares really at the end of the day?
Yeah, yeah, I think you hit it on the nail. You hit the nail on the head, whatever
I
that.
hit the hammer on the nose.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the movie felt like I mean going into the movie like I did not feel I felt like outside of the story. Like I felt like I was not the target audience for the movie. Like it felt like the movie was being made for people who went and watched Barbie and were like this is this is not nuanced enough. This isn't filmy enough. And then wanted like just a regurgitated worse version of that. And then they found like this like arty film and decided that this was a good way to like receive that message. So in turn, it was like it was very like through a male lens, like giving people their vegetables, giving men their vegetables in a way that's acceptable to them because they're not going to watch the Pink Barbie Dreamhouse movie, I guess. I mean, they did, but like, I don't know. It felt like the themes were more like, oh, this is how women are, and we should be like nice to them. And and even in those themes, it was like very interesting. Like the choices that were made, I've thought about it a lot, and I'm like, maybe I'm a prude, but I just don't see what the point is of having Emma Stone grow up. And I really enjoyed, I like you, I enjoyed the first like 30-40 minutes of the movie when she's like growing up in her house and she has a father figure and she's like figuring out the world. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting that like somebody her age that's like a fully grown person, mentally like grown up person, is like recording all her things. But like I don't know why he has to have like start feeling like romantic feelings towards her at the ripe age of like 5. Like she can't even like construct a sentence. And and he is like, I don't know, wants to marry her. That entire like all of the romantic stuff in the movie, like I enjoyed like the parts where she's in a brothel, but every part of it where she was just like I guess exploring her interest in love and romance, I was like, I just don't think this is well done. I don't think that you all are making any statement. And if you are telling, like, if I was to talk to somebody who loved the movie and they were like, no, no, you don't get it, I'd be like, but I need to get it. Like, if I watched that movie and if I didn't get it, then it was not accessible, you know? Like, I just don't
Yeah,
see the
I
point. I
mean,
don't really understand what the point of all having that entire storyline is.
I,
Like,
I agree that the Rami Youssef character, like I think when it started out, I was like, okay, weird that like he wants to get married and he's like mad that she's leaving him. Like like you basically just like signed the contract without even barely talking to her. Like and I almost think
and
that
she doesn't
like
even
that's a
understand it because she's a child.
right. And I think that like I thought like okay in the beginning of the movie that's on purpose, and then by the end of the movie like we'll see like the completion of that kind of like narrative arc. But instead, you know, in Barbie when she's like, Ken, like I don't love you, I actually don't need you or want you, that you should go like do your own thing. I thought that they
Yeah.
were gonna do something like that, where it's like, oh, like you've been working for me, you like I don't care
Yeah.
about you
Or
at all,
even like
actually.
in Barbie, I feel like there's more. She's like, "You're my friend. Like I do care. Like I think you're a good. Like I care about you, but like I don't love you. We're not like
Right.
meant for each other. Like that is more impactful. That is like a new concept to some people, or that might be something that's like makes people think. This doesn't make anyone think. This is just like just for men to be like, oh, look at her. She's 10 years old and horny. Like I don't know what is the point. Anyways,
No, no, not anyways. This is the podcast. This is where we want more, anyways. Um, yeah, I think the beginning of the movie is good, but knowing where it goes, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, oh, everything they set up actually like doesn't feel like it leads to any like revelatory meaning. Um,
yeah.
it's almost like the destination sucked, but I really enjoyed parts of the journey. So
Hmm.
we haven't talked about him yet, but I really want to talk about Mark Ruffalo's role in this movie because I
Oh
actually
my
think
god,
that
I was
he is like,
excited to hear us talk about him.
yeah, I think he was really really fun to hate, and I think he was like very funny in the way he was like the worst person ever in the movie.
Hmm.
Um, and I think he actually is the man in the story that makes the most sense in
Hmm.
terms of like, oh, he's just an incredibly horny man who, when he doesn't get what he wants, literally kidnaps the woman and puts her on a boat so he can fuck her by himself or have her all to himself. And like I was like, oh, like you're the villain of the story. This actually kind of makes sense. Or not the villain, but like you are the person that she has to overcome, and she very easily and quickly overcomes him by like learning about the world and meeting the old woman
Yeah,
on the boat and stuff. Um, but yeah,
yeah,
I,
but
I
don't you
basically like
think?
enjoyed his role.
I agree. I think he's a good act. Like nobody's saying that Mark Ruffalo isn't a good actor. I think he's a great
Sure.
actor, and I think he's the only one that made me feel anything because I laughed when he was around. Um,
Right.
but I just don't think it's like he received an Oscar nomination for being a college level douchebag. Like I watched after. Like he's playing whatever Hardin Scott. It's no different. It's the same character. He's just an old man doing it. You know, like I don't know if it's like any. I just don't think every CW show has had one of those. You know?
Right, but he's not they're not Mark Ruffalo. That's what the Oscars saying. I mean, but then would you say the same thing about Ryan Gosling as Ken?
Yeah, probably. But like, no, but I think the thing about Ryan Gosling's character is that like he has, I guess Mark Ruffalo technically has an like a arc in terms of emotions because he descends into madness. But like, at least Ryan Gosling, I don't think that Ryan Gosling's character is any better per se, but at least he has a musical number and he like at the end portrays like a change of heart and like that you see that in his demeanor, his face, his the way. I mean, I'm not an actor, but like I feel like that's an accomplishment. The way that he was able to like believably make this Ken character go through all of these array of emotions and then come back to like his. I don't know. It felt much more like he did something with that. But Mark Ruffalo, he played it well, but he played it as something that I've seen in every teen drama. Like, you
Right,
know?
just the asshole.
Yeah.
It's a funny
And
asshole.
the funny asshole who's like, "Oh, you're my girlfriend. You have to do what I want you to do." You know, like that's done. I mean, it's good. I love movies like that, but I don't want those movies to like be like accoladed with Oscar nominations. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about it that way. I think that's more on like the script than it is the actor. I always say that like if the movie sucks and the script is like stupid, which is kind of what we're saying about Poor Things right now, but the actors like sell the concept really well. I'm like, oh, like they actually are almost like better for it because they made a piece of shit into something that was like watchable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
you're
that's the way
right,
I
for
think about
sure.
it.
Like he's yeah, I mean that his skill as an actor is making that be compelling, for sure.
Because if you think about it, like when Rami Youssef or Gerard Carmichael, I don't know how to say that guy's name. When they're on screen, I was having thoughts that we're talking about now, where I was like, what is this movie saying? Why am I bored? Like, what is
Yeah.
this? When Mark Ruffalo was on screen, I was smiling, I was laughing, I was like, oh, this guy's an idiot. Like I was
Yeah.
like in it more. So that's why I was like, oh, this guy actually really went off.
I
Um,
agree. I'll
but
I'll, I'll
I
agree
hear
with
you
that.
though.
I agree with that. I think that yeah, my qualm is not with Mark Ruffalo. My qualm is with just the script, like you're saying.
Yeah, it also feels like like I think if this movie was not nominated for a single Oscar, I don't think you'd be nearly as upset,
Yeah,
would you?
I wouldn't care. Like I have nothing against bad movies. Bad movies are incredible. Like there's it's not about the movie. Yeah, it's about the fact that it's being like treated as like some sort of like masterpiece or something. Maybe it's not. Maybe I think it is because I just get mad every single time anybody from that movie wins an award. But
No,
I
no.
just don't
I
think it
think
is, you know?
it is. I think people are. I mean, I look. This movie is not written. Sorry, this movie is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. So I've never seen a movie by him, but he's been nominated for a handful of Oscars. In 2018, he made a movie called The Favorite that was like really popular at the Oscars, also
Yeah.
starring Emma Stone. Olivia Colman won a leading actress Oscar for that. And 5 years later, he's back, and it's like I don't think he's gonna win Best Director. I don't think this movie's gonna win Best Picture. It has a chance at screenplay, and there's a very good chance Emma Stone walks away with Best Actress. And so I
Oh my
think
god.
that's
If she
why.
does, it's not Emma Stone. It's not Emma Stone. It's just
It's the
that
movie.
Bella cannot be winning and the fact that her name is Bella. Oh my god. It's like they took Twilight and they were like, how can we make this like a little bit more like weird? And they just made it a little weirder. Like Kristen Stewart already did it. Why didn't you give her an Oscar? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want. I want Lily Gladstone to win for Killers of the Flower Moon. I think it'd be. I think it like okay. Do you remember last year? I said this on the Oscars pod, but like last year the Oscars race was between Michelle Yeoh and Kate Blanchett for leading actress,
Yeah.
and Michelle Yeoh won. But leading up to it, like it was back and forth, and Kate Blanchett, like I think critically was like, at least this is what my take was, is that like she very well might have had the better performance,
Yeah.
but Michelle Yeoh like tugged at a lot of heartstrings and was kind of like a legend, and was like, we need to give her an Oscar. So she
Yeah.
wins, for better or worse. I think it's for better because Kate Blanchett already has 2 Oscars. Everyone knows she's amazing. I feel the same way about this year, except for the fact that I think Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon is actually like way better than Michelle Yeoh was in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, it actually like makes way less sense for Emma Stone to win here, and I think it's like insane that she's getting this much credit. Like Emma Stone in Poor Things is not Kate Blanchett in Tar. Kate Blanchett in Tar is like, oh yeah, she's acting her motherfucking ass off.
She like orchestrated that film, like literally and figuratively. Like this is not that. I mean, Emma Stone does do a lot for the film. Like I
She does a
was,
lot. She's doing a lot. We can't discredit that. I
yeah,
think she's doing like she carries the movie by like aging in a way that is believable. Like she's the same person, but she mentally ages, and we kind of buy it throughout the
yeah.
entire movie. That's like an accomplishment. I think that's why she's getting awarded. But um, I guess like from a like awards narrative perspective, it really
But
sucks.
didn't Brad Pitt do it already? Benjamin Button.
Curious case of Benjamin.
It's like the same thing as backwards, but like I don't know. It just doesn't feel like I don't know.
But that used CGI, and that was like his body changed. He just had to be like, I'm an old man now. Now I'm young and spirited and happy. You know, I didn't
Yeah,
watch the
I
movie,
guess.
so I don't know.
But this isn't that much more believable. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know like a lot of 8-year-olds that are just sticking apples up their vagina for fun. And then okay, never mind. That's a whole nother issue. Why okay, why is she like 8 years old? Okay, 8-year-olds, they're allowed to have
Wait, wait,
whatever
wait,
thoughts they're
wait,
having.
wait, 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 wait. You said 8-year-olds 5 times. We don't know she's 8. She probably was like 13.
Okay, okay, great. She's 13. That's fine.
Wait,
She
that's
can be 13.
5 years, but that's a big difference when it comes to
No,
that
I have no
stuff.
problems with her having like thoughts about her sexuality. She's allowed to have thoughts about her sexuality.
But why the apple?
Yes. Like why?
Yeah, the apple was crazy.
Oh my god, why? It just like not only does she do that, she sticks an apple up her vagina and she's
I have a
like
theory.
hot and bothered off of it. But then people come in and they're like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" and all this. I'm like, it feels I don't know. I know the thing that they're trying to do is like show clearly like she does not understand the concept of shame. She doesn't but like you could have done that in so many other ways. I'm not a writer.
Right.
I don't know other ways, but that just feels like the least master, like least artful, like lowest hanging fruit way to do it. Like the most like the easiest way to portray that is to be like, yeah, she was masturbating and then somebody walked in on her. Like that's come on. I don't know. Aren't we like aren't we supposed to be giving this to somebody or like aren't we supposed to honor people who like put some thought into how they're going to portray that? I don't know. That just doesn't feel like I could have come up with that. I'm not winning Oscars.
Yeah, I think that latter feeling is what I'm feeling as well. Like, I think it makes sense for the world that they created with their like Victorian era. How do we show this woman who clearly has no shame because she doesn't understand society open with masturbation? But then outside of the movie, I'm like, if I was writing this concept, I would have had the exact same thought within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, so I get it. I will say I not that I agree, but I think I know what they were going for with the apple. I have a theory,
What?
which is Eve bites into the forbidden fruit, and she's basically like the forbidden fruit. She's literally masturbating with the forbidden fruit, kind of thing. Which
Oh,
not that it
okay.
makes it better, but I think I understand why they chose an apple and why they. But like, it also just like didn't need to happen.
Dude, halfway through the movie, when they were getting married, as oh my god, when they were getting married, or they were like about to get married, and
Yes.
then I realized that there was a whole nother 30 minutes. I was like, should I just leave? Like there's no point. I'm literally sitting here and I'm just like boring myself to death. Like I should just leave.
Yeah.
But then I didn't. Oh, I should have.
I agree. So like I guess we can talk about that last part where like her old husband or her body's old husband comes and then like she for whatever reason agrees to go with him. I guess because she's curious and wants to know what her old self was like and wants to understand things better because she's like, "Oh, I'm not a real human." Like she knows that about herself. And she goes and she realizes very quickly that this man is like pretty evil and that he like tries to shoot anyone that like gets in his way for anything, and also that she was a bad person because their like favorite activity as a couple was like making the servers spill soup, and she was like, oh, like I must have been miserable and unhappy and I killed myself. and then there's a confrontation, and then she not poisons him, but throws the drink in his face. He accidentally shoots himself in the foot. They go home, and then the movie ends within 5 minutes, and they turn him into a goat, and happily ever after, in their little like backyard, and it's all women in Rami. And I was like, honestly, I didn't need that. I didn't need like any of that.
No.
They just like, well, okay, like yeah, she. Okay, I guess the only part of the arc that was missing was her relationship to her pat or her mom slash whatever her past body, and so she needed to have that understanding that like, oh, I was a bad person, but I have the ability to change. Like we all have the ability to like change who we are in some capacity.
Yeah.
But again, like we're saying, I think it's effective maybe in saying that, but like again, I'm like, who cares? Is that really that deep of a concept? Is that something that we need to like rehash? Like, yeah, basic human decency is like, yeah, you should change if you're a bad person.
Yeah, I almost wish that the ending went like rather than doing the entire like wedding, she goes, she sees like it could have been more about like how her bodily agency was like completely like taken from her in her conception. Like that is such an interesting concept. And they kind of just have like two scenes where she's like, "Oh my god, like he just put my baby's brain into my body." And then she's like, "I forgive you. That really was like that wasn't nice, but I forgive you." And that's it.
Yeah, that's after the brothel, right? When she goes back
Yes.
home.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I feel like that could have been a more interesting avenue to like kind of like investigate the same thing where you're thinking about like where you might investigate your past life or whatever. That could have been an entire movie and I might have been more interested in it.
I'm glad I understand this. 'Cause you watched this movie a week or two before I did, and you were like, "That was the worst movie of the year," and a lot of creepy shit happens. And I was like, "Oh, I definitely need to go watch this movie now." And while I like walked away from the movie being like, I had fun at times, I was left with this overall confusion. I literally like in my letterbox review was like, this reminds me of Barbie, and I didn't think that Barbie had a good ending until I watched this movie. And now suddenly I'm like, wow, Barbie was pretty good too.
Yeah. Like if this is the standard now, like yeah, Barbie's a great movie. I mean, Barbie is a good movie, but like
Barbie is a great movie, yeah.
but they made it yeah, I don't know. Also, I remember when I was talking to you and Krupa about the movie, I was really angry about how many sex scenes there were. And then ever since then I feel like I've like kind of chilled out about that. And it's like fine. They can put however many sex scenes they want in it. But I still feel like they could have used the time that they are taking up in the 5 billion sex scenes towards doing something else more productive and interesting. Like I got it after the second sex scene that like she's horny. Good for her. I don't need to see it. Like I can just use that time to do something else, you know? Like her brothel sex scenes, okay, those were like accomplishing something. There was a there
Right.
was some
I was gonna mention that. I think that part worked really well.
but like I don't know, I felt like there was a lot of time being wasted in the earlier parts where she was just like having sex with Mark Ruffalo and I was like I just don't I'm okay, like yeah, we got it. Like let's move, you know?
Yeah, it's tough because like the like a rise of her, or like in the first half of the movie there's like a lot of sex, and in the last of the movie there's a lot of sex, kind of broken apart by the boat scenes and everything in between
Yeah.
before Paris.
And
And
the boat scenes are fucking boring. So it just didn't like
they're very
you
boring.
moved along and then you're like, okay, this is boring.
Yeah, it almost feels like the sex is the propulsive drive of the movie, which is really weird. But I also like just think I when I look back at the movie, I'm like, oh, this was a movie that was exploring the like life of a Victorian woman largely through sex, and had like really little to say. It almost felt like the parts that they could have um, said more about were used as a punchline. Like there's this quote when Mark Ruffalo is like, "You're selling your body," and she's walking away from him, and she's like, "We are our own means of production," and it's like a funny, quippy line about like, "Oh, she's a socialist now."
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm also like, wouldn't it be fascinating to like focus like 5 to 10 more minutes more in the movie about these real socialist ideas in Victorian era, and like get to a point where I walk away being like, oh, that's interesting. Like imagine if this happened and women did like I just I think it was just because it was framed largely through the sex scenes. I and largely through sex scenes that were largely played for comedy or for discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a sex scene where I was like watching and being like, oh, this is like I'm emotionally invested in this,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And that might be his style as a filmmaker. I don't know because I've never seen his movies. I know that his movies are definitely very deadpan, and this almost didn't feel nearly as deadpan as I thought it would. But yeah, it's I didn't. I guess what I'm saying is I didn't. I think the stylistic like narrative of this was hard to like latch onto and be like, oh, I like this a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say it's really pretty. Nice to look at. The sets and the costumes, like that's good.
Yeah, I agree. I think all that was really fun. Willem Dafoe, we haven't talked about him once. I liked his makeup, his whole Frankenstein getup.
Oh yeah. That was cool. I liked how he burped up his also, yeah, like he was abused by his father. That's like a whole thing that they just say. Just like the so like, they say that thing, okay, that's fine. But like, why is that like necessary? If you're just gonna waste time on the sex scenes, why even say it? Like now I want to know more about that, you know?
I do think that they explored it a little bit because Willem Dafoe almost reverted to being like, my father was justified in abusing me, and
Yeah.
mommy is like literally like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like he says like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And so it almost like I'm not sure if I understand it yet, but I think there was a little bit in there about like this mad scientist who knows he's abused and almost is like it was
Like
warranted, and
intellectualizing
how
it.
that yes, and almost like I guess how that juxtaposes to his relationship with Bella, who's basically his daughter that he did something kind of similar to and
Yeah.
like created her in a certain way. I think there's something there. I don't know what, but I actually think that's one of the more interesting parts of the movie is Willem Dafoe's character
Yeah.
and Bella's relationship to him. But like you said, Bella's apology toward or accepting of Willem Dafoe's apology being really quick, and then we move on in the last act to Bella's old husband. That
Hmm.
whole thing, I was like, I actually think that if you spent the last act only with Willem Dafoe, it could have been really
Yeah,
interesting.
he's so good.
Yeah.
He's also actually I changed my mind about Mark Ruffalo. He's the only man in the movie that I felt something about. But also
Okay.
he is a eunuch and that's why they say that he's like a nice person is because he can't have sex. Like that's the only reason why he's a nice person. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so like just anyways.
It's very reductive. It's reductive on purpose because it's a movie that is like reducing everybody down to like their genitals and their brain really, and being like, here are the two factors. And Bella's the one who kind of grows into something dynamic. But yeah, I agree. I think this movie's not for everyone. I told my sister not to watch it because my sister's like doesn't really like movies with heavy sex scenes, and I'm like, yeah, this movie's just like not for you. She also didn't really like Barbie as much, and these movies there's a lot of similarities between these two movies, and I
Yeah.
think largely it feels like it's trying to say like, for better or worse, like here's an experience that women have, and let's make it cinematic.
Yeah.
And that's not for everyone. I know a lot of people in my life who didn't relate to Barbie and probably would relate to Poor Things even less the way you did. So
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is it's not a woman's movie. Men only.
uh
No, I know that's not what you're saying.
maybe.
I,
Yeah, I don't think that's what I'm
I
saying, but
know.
I
I
was trying to play
know.
along.
That was a
um
joke, but
No, I don't know. I mean, it's very possible. This is a movie by a man, written by a man, also based on a book. Let's hold for applause, but I think it's written by a man, the original novel.
there's a book.
Uh,
Somebody read this.
this was a novel written by a Scottish man who died in
So they
2019
took
named Alasdair Gray.
Frankenstein, a like classic novel written by Mary Shelley, one of like the first prominent sci-fi fantasy fiction authors that also happens to be a female who has a very interesting perspective and like has a very informed like lineage of writers in her life and in her family, and they took that some Scottish guy bastardized that novel and then they made a movie about it.
Yeah, and like, what if the monster like fucked a lot? What if the monster was really good at sex? And, like fucked the shit out of me. And now she fucks me like this. Now he's gonna fuck the shit out Oh my god, she's amazing at this. It's just that the entire novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what Poor Things is.
Anyways,
Yay!
yeah.
Let's stop talking about Poor Things because May December is a movie we both loved. I think it's like in my top 5 of the year at this current point. Let's take a quick break and then let's have some fun conversation about this movie we both like.
Do you remember when you first met?
He came to the pet store looking for a job.
It was summer after 6th grade?
Seventh.
Why do you want to play me?
When they sent me the script, I thought, here is a woman with a lot more to her than I remember from the tabloids.
What would make a 36-year-old woman have an affair with a 7th grader?
People, they like see me as a victim. I wanted it.
Where's, like, I know you probably don't have a real list, but like, where's May December in terms of 2023 movies in your mind?
I think it's like number 4, number 3.
Oh, good.
It's up there, like way up there. When I first watched it, I was like, this is the best thing I've watched, like maybe ever. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
And like now, a few weeks later, I still love it. It's not number 1 anymore because I thought about it a little bit. And I watched Iron Claw. It's like a whole nother thing. But so now it's number like 3 or 4, somewhere in there.
Okay, good.
But it's
I think it's like
incredible.
number 5 for me. It's amazing. I guess let's introduce this movie to the audience because there's a good chance people don't know what this is. Netflix movie. I don't know if it's like an original Netflix production, but certainly released by Netflix, starring Julianne Moore, Natalie Portman, and Charles Melton, who you might have seen on Riverdale. Were you a Riverdale watcher?
I watched Riverdale like when I was in high school, but I think back then Charles Melton wasn't in it. It was another guy. Charles Melton like took over the character from somebody else. So like second season, like the guy just changed. It was another half Asian guy.
Oh, that's fascinating. Good for Charles Melton for like. I'm sure he stepped into a role that was not nearly as good when the guy left, and then
No, yeah, the other guy was kind of lame. Also, this Charles Melton is way hotter, so I think that was really increased the appeal.
I didn't know who he was before the movie, so I remember you saying like Charles Melton is so hot. I didn't find him hot in the movie, obviously, because he's like deeply stunted, and I was like, "What is Priya talking about?" And then I saw pictures of him on the press.
Also,
tours,
have you
and
seen
I was like, "Oh, this guy is attractive."
that interview where he's like, I had to put on so much weight. Like, I was trying so hard to look ugly. And I was like, you weren't even that. Like, you weren't even that
Dude,
fat and ugly.
That's actually mad disrespectful. I can't believe you said that.
Yeah, he was like,
He looked so normal.
I know. He literally looked like a regular person. He was like, I was eating so many pizzas and burgers and ice cream to look fat. And you were like, that's what you
Wow.
landed on?
That must be so hard.
I know.
Wow. So the plot of this movie is not simple, but I'll try to explain it simply. Julianne Moore plays a former middle school teacher,
Yeah.
high school teacher,
Middle
school
school.
teacher, who
Wait, she's not a teacher. Oh, is she?
I thought she was a teacher.
Yeah, she is. She is.
Maybe not.
She is. She is. She is.
I think so.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Who, and this is loosely based on a true story, which is really upsetting. But when Julianne Moore's character named Gracie is 36, she's caught having sex with 13-year-old Joe Yu at a pet store where they both worked. So maybe she wasn't a teacher; she worked at the pet store.
Yeah, she's not. But her son went to school with him. That's how like she knew him.
Got it. And I think the reason I thought that she was a teacher, Priya, is because the true story is that the woman was a teacher.
I see. Okay.
Which I think is worse. But anyway, this isn't much better. And cut to like 30 years later, they're living with their kids and Gracie's kids from her previous marriage that she had an affair during. And Natalie Portman is a movie actress who shows up to play her in a movie. And then it's very kind of like abstract, but it's about Natalie Portman trying to learn more about her. And it's a movie about acting and performance and how we're all performing in our lives. And it's also a movie about deep trauma, and traumatized will continue to traumatize. And just like an incredibly deep and sometimes hard to watch, but like hard to look away from movie about some fucked up shit. And I thought it was incredible. And I can't believe it's only gotten one Oscar nomination, because that's like a crime.
That's literally criminal. It's so good. Once again,
Yeah.
like, they gave Poor Things 11 Oscars, and they gave this movie one. Okay.
I know it's tough. This movie, I really thought this movie was just gonna like be nominated for Best Picture. I was like, oh no, for sure, May December's in there.
Yeah.
And then Maestro got in, and I was like, oh okay, cool. So we care about Maestro more. They're both Netflix movies, but we care about Maestro more. Anyway, what is your favorite thing in this movie? I'm sure there's a lot. I think your favorite thing is Charles Melton.
Of course. But if I like, you mean like favorite like scene in the movie?
Anything, aspect, person, moment, anything. I just wanna. I don't think we have to go scene by scene deep dive like we did for Rocky or Ronnie or Hunger Games or anything, but I do want to just like highlight some cool moments in this movie.
I think I have two. The first one is when at the climax of the movie, or like in the middle, when Charles Melton's character is talking to his son, and he kind of starts realizing like that his son is older than he was when he was approached by Julianne Moore's character, and how that probably was wrong. And like he kind of starts having those thoughts that I think he's kind of pushed away for a long time. And also the scene between Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman at the end, where Natalie Portman is like almost speaking in Julianne Moore's accent, because she's like imitating her. And Julianne Moore is like, you don't know everything. Like, not everything is as it seems. And it just felt like two titans like going up against each other. It was like Marvel. Yeah.
I loved both of those moments. The smoking weed with his son scene is really like, at first it's like, oh, this is nice, he's connecting, and then very quickly becomes like, oh, he's like, he's emotionally a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, he doesn't know how to connect at a certain level, and like he says this line, he's like, I feel like I'm actively traumatizing you.
Yeah.
And his son is like, it's okay, Dad, like it's fine. But it's just like, I just felt so bad for both people in that scene.
Yeah.
It's just like really, really hard to watch. Charles Melton is like maybe the best actor in this, which is kind of crazy because Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman are like really, really, really good in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think he's just like able to portray this like innocence and like deep-seated like repressed youthfulness really well. And especially in this moment, I remember like, I think he has this scene before the high school graduation at the end where he's like in the kitchen with his kids.
Uh-huh.
And that's the first time he kind of feels like a father, but mostly feels like an older brother. But it's the first time you kind of see him just like happy in his life. And I was like, I just want to give him everything. Like, he deserves the world.
I know, he's so sweet. And like the way, you know what? He was Bella Baxter in that movie, and he did it right.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
The way that he portrays, like, he's an adult man, but he has like the emotions and the emotional, like, both strength. Like, I think it's a strength, and he shows the strength of having like that innocence within him when he's like letting the butterflies go. I think they're butterflies, monarch butterflies or whatever he's like keeping in his house, and he's like so connected to those butterflies, and it's just so like touching. And it's a great scene where he like kind of is able to really show the audience like that he's a child in a man's body, and he also has these children. And he he's like an older brother in so many ways, because he also like he has this like thing about his sister he had asthma in the past, and he used to take care of her, and that like older brother energy was like taken advantage of by this like old woman, right? The way he just portrays all that is just so good. He's just he needs to be in more things. Like, I did not know Charles Melton was like hard hitting actor. Like, the last time I saw him was literally like when he was like getting shirtless in a hot tub with Archie and Jughead. Now I like want to see him act. Like, he's so good.
I didn't know he existed before this movie, and then I looked him up, and he was like, "What do you mean he was in Riverdale? Like, this guy was in Riverdale? Like, what was he doing in that show? I don't know." But I think the parts of this movie that I found most fascinating in general were that like it felt like a mystery movie for the first half of it, because you're trying to figure out what happened and what's happening. And then it like morphs into this tragedy right around the time. For me, it was right around the time, and this might have been it might have been earlier than this, but one of the worst things I've seen in a movie, but also one of the best things I've seen, is Natalie Portman when she sleeps with Charles Melton and then is like, I really want to read the letter that Charles Melton gave her. He says like, don't read it now. And they fuck, and he goes to the bathroom, and the second he gets up, she like rips open the letter and is like quickly reading it. And I was like, oh, you're a monster. Like,
and she also doesn't give a shit. She's like, whatever. Like, she's not like, oh my God, like I need to read it. She's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I gotta do it for the job.
Yeah, just doing it in front of him. And then like, he obviously doesn't know how to handle this because he hasn't been with a woman his own age. And she was just like, yeah, I do this all the time. Like, I sleep with people outside of my marriage or whatever. I don't know if I think she's married or...
She's in a relationship of some sort. I think she's like engaged, right? Because her like boyfriend or whatever is like always talking about planning the wedding. Did I make that up?
That's right. Yeah. No. I think you're right. She mentions that, and she's like, I think she's like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about having kids of my own, to Charles Melton's character in the beginning. And then she like A, hits on the director of the movie she's about to star in, and then B, sleeps with Charles Melton. It's a slow burn, but there's so many moments in this where you realize how bad of a mother Julianne Moore is to her children. Yeah. Like the body shaming, and then the giving the scale to the kid that went to college. And then at the end of the movie, her being like, we learned that from, I think, her brother or cousin brother, that like she was abused or like raped or something by her own cousins or uncles or something.
Her brothers, right? She was abused by her own brothers, I think.
Her own brothers, yeah, that's what it was. And then at the end of the movie, she says like, yeah, he told you that. Like, don't believe everything you hear. Of course that's not true. That's so silly. And Natalie Portman was just left like in awe and like shock. Like, what do you mean that's not true?
Yeah. What do you think that is? Like, do you think that that's like, I was thinking about that scene for a long time, and I honestly still don't understand what was going on. Like, in that she's like, I understand that she's like trying to intimidate her, being like, you think you like have me all figured out. You think you have this family all figured out. You don't know anything. Like, you don't know how we work. But I don't really know, like, why would that son tell her this and then tell his mom that he told her? Like, it just doesn't make much sense to me.
I think that there's a moment earlier in the movie where Charles Melton basically like confronts Gracie and is like, we've never talked about it, or like we don't talk about it anymore, but like you did that to me. Basically, after he sleeps with Natalie Portman, he's like, you did that to me and I'm not okay.
Yeah. Wow, and that was like a line by line reading. That was really good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I watched the movie. I remembered a couple things. And she basically says like, no, you took advantage of me. Like, you were the man in that situation or something. Or she says something along the lines of like, you did this to me and I'm not okay or something. She twists it. And it's like, she's like, I don't know if pathological liar is the term, but she crafts her own narrative of like what is happening in her life and in her mind. So much so that like she knows what's true, or she I think she knows what's true, but she refuses to admit it to anyone or even herself sometimes. And I think that was the culmination of that, where she was basically like, not that like, yeah, that happened and it fucked me up and that's maybe the reason why I am, but like that didn't happen. Like nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it's like so removed from reality to a point where like even an actress, somebody who pretends for a living, is unable to process. I think that was maybe the idea there.
Okay, I see.
But I'm not sure. It's open ended on purpose. I'm sure. One image I can't get out of my mind is the scene right before that, before high school graduation, when Julianne Moore's Gracie is in the woods hunting.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? It's like a minute of her hunting,
I don't remember
and then
it.
it just cuts away.
I thought you were going to talk about Charles Manson crying, but I I don't remember what happened before that.
No, that was good too. Charles Melton crying was definitely also memorable. Like sun coming down, just watching from afar.
It was so good. Okay.
That was a beautiful moment.
We can talk about that. No, we can talk about the hunting.
Yeah, sure. The hunting, I don't know why that was in the movie, but I'm not upset about it. I'm just fascinated by it because she mentions she likes hunting or she grew up hunting with her dad.
Yeah.
And then there's a shot of her hunting with like a dog by her side.
Yeah. I remember this. I think it's like because she's always wearing these like really light, roughly like nursery dresses, like almost like what you would put an infant in. And she's like talking with this lisp and she's so soft spoken and like she's trying to act like she is also in 7th grade, like the entire movie. But like, I guess it's like the one scene where she's just like a grown ass woman. She's like doing something and she's not like, I'm so weak, I baked a cake today. You know, like she's like doing something. She's hunting. She's not, I think it clearly like shows that like she has what it takes to like be a horrible, nefarious person. And like make that.
She's in control when she's hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I don't know. That's the fun part about this movie. I think, at least for me, is like there's so many things in this movie where I'm like, I think that's what that means.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many shots where you just like are left with this feeling of unease or feeling of like wanting to uncover more about this mystery that is never uncovered fully.
Yeah.
Which is just like genre wise, I'm like, I don't even know how to describe this movie to someone with a genre. It's like a Bollywood movie in that way. It's like, yeah it's a comedy, drama, mystery, fantasy, musical.
Literally.
Romance, all the above.
And also like even at the end when Natalie Portman's like acting like she's enjoys like having like a relationship with the 7th grader actor, and then you're like, is she acting? Is she not? Like, I don't know. It's just so good. Like, the lines are so blurred. It's just like, ugh, so good.
Yeah, and her final line is like, I think I'm finally getting it or something like that. Like, I think it feels more real. That's what she says.
Yeah.
It's like it's starting to feel real. And it's deeply fascinating. I think this movie is really cool because it's like, well, for a lot of reasons I've been saying, but like, it's about ideas and it's not pretentious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you can watch a movie. You can watch like a social justice movie that feels pretentious because it's like, yeah, this is about like liberalism in 2016 or whatever, and like rise up.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this movie is about like ideas, but like in the most like uncompromising way, where it's just like, yeah, you deal with it.
This is our
Gonna,
world.
like, leave it out.
Yeah.
I do want to shout out the music really quickly. I looked up who composed it. Marcelo Zarvos. Dude, I thought I was like gonna die every time the little string melody came up. I was like, someone's gonna pop out.
And it would come up at the weirdest times, which I read there was like a comedic thing. But to me, it was not comedic. I was just like, every time it come up, I'd be like, oh my God, this is serious. Like, this is real shit. Like, whatever is about to happen is real. And it would be like, she's opening the like refrigerator door. And then the music was just like booming in your face. It was so good. I also really enjoyed the score.
I think I think the comedy part of this is not something that would ever hit on the first watch, at least for me. I think maybe if I rewatched it, because I know what the movie is, I'd be able to like sink into it a little bit more and be like, oh, it's funny. Like clearly like they're making it super serious, but it's not. I think that this director, Todd Haynes.
Yeah,
Todd Haynes. I've only seen one movie that he's made. It's called Far From Heaven, also with Julianne Moore, like 20 years ago. and it's like a period piece. It's like in the 1950s. She plays a housewife who starts to like explore her sexuality and have affairs and stuff like that. I thought it was good. I watched it in film class in college. Don't really remember it much, but I was like, oh, this feels like a film. One of the few I've seen in my life. And I think this guy does that often, where he plays with genre and makes like weird shit. And now I'm like curious about all of his other movies. I want to kind of go down the list.
I haven't watched any of his movies, but I was watching. This is like so Gen Z of me. I was watching a TikTok of him talking about a movie that he made. It's called like Superstar Karen something. Wait, I'll find it. And it's fully done with Barbie dolls. And not Barbie dolls. It's like Barbie-like dolls, like off-brand Barbie dolls, and documentary footage, like intercut. And in this interview, he was being like interviewed by Greta Gerwig, and Greta Gerwig was like, that is like the movie that inspired Barbie. Superstar, Whoa. The Karen Carpenter story. It's about Karen Carpenter, who was like a musical artist back in the day. She was like a singer, and she died very tragically. And the movie's like kind of about her life, but it's done through like fake Barbie dolls, or like off-brand Barbie dolls. And apparently it's super good.
That's wild. Yeah, this movie looks interesting. It's 43 minutes long. It's a short film. And it looks crazy. I should watch this.
Yeah.
This looks fascinating. I love this because this is like the perfect example of a artsy art house filmmaker. Not art house. I should say like a filmmaker that's like not a household name, making something, putting it on Netflix, and people just watching it because famous people are in it. And we like loved it, and now we're like curious about Todd Haynes. Yorgos Lanthimos did not do that.
No,
that's what he could have done. You know, like,
yeah.
Like I think if I had watched The Favorite first, I would have been. I think I want to like that movie.
Yeah.
That I hope I would have been like, oh, this is really good, and I want to watch everything he's made. And then I would have been like, yeah, Poor Things was not good, but I still like Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah.
It's tough when you like watch a movie because it's being talked about critically, and then it's not something that works well. But I like the fact that we both kind of just like organically found this on Netflix. It's not organic, but like it's not because it was nominated for Oscars. It was because it was on Netflix.
Yeah.
I just found it.
Yeah. That's like the beauty of streaming. Yeah.
That is the beauty of streaming.
But also recently I bought a Regal movie pass, and then I've been watching so many movies, and some of them are good or some of them are bad, and it's like so fun. Like that's why I watched Iron Claw, which is like such a good movie. Everyone go watch Iron Claw.
I need to get around to watching that. When are we doing our worst movies of the year podcast?
Oh, I mean, but the thing is, like, if we do that, I will talk about Poor Things the whole time.
Wait, we can do a top 10 list each. So
okay.
Like, we can just be like, here are 10 worst. And if Poor Things is your number one, then it's like
I'll just be like refer to the other podcast. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, see more underlined hyperlink.
Yes.
To this episode.
Yes. What was your favorite scene? I feel like I talked about mine.
My favorite scene in the movie, weirdly, I think the image that has stayed with me, because it's the first time the movie kind of clicked for me, is when Natalie Portman's character goes to the pet shop to like see the scene of the crime, quote unquote, and then ends up like faux having sex with an invisible person. And it's just a zoom out shot on her doing that, and then she like kind of chuckles to herself.
Yeah. And
that's the first glimpse you get into like, oh, this Natalie Portman character is like weird.
Yeah, she's psycho. I love when she laughs at the end. It's kind of like maniacal, because she's like, oh, this is so easy. I like.
Yes. There's an arrogance about it too. That shot is just like has stayed in my head, for better or worse. So yeah, I'll just shout that out. I don't know. I feel like I had some things in there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is an underrated movie of 2023, though. I think like in terms of underrated movies of the decade, this is like maybe at the top 5 of the list. Like no one's talking about this in like everyday conversation, and I'm like, this is like one of the most impactful things I've seen all year.
Yeah, I agree. I have no notes other than every listener remember.
Every listener remember.
Yeah. Mark Ruffalo was nominated for an Oscar for playing a frat boy, but Charles Melton wasn't. That's the only thing I have to say.
I will say to be fair, I don't disagree, but I think that you have to put Ryan Gosling's name in that hat. I think one of them has to go.
But at
And
least
honestly,
Ryan Gosling's hot.
How dare you? Mark Ruffalo is beautiful. That's it. We're scheduling the hottest men of the American Isles episode.
Oh my god, please.
We have to do it. That's too good. No, I know. It's silly. I don't... It's tough. Like, on one hand, I've always said that, like, the Oscars need to take comedies more seriously. And then I'm like, wait, not those comedies. like
real comedies. Yeah, only the comedies I like.
Yeah, it's tough. They did give two comedic performances or two comedic movies glimpses. Have you seen? You haven't. Have you seen American Fiction?
No, but I want to. I keep seeing the trailer everywhere. I really want to watch it.
Yeah, I've heard good things. I've also heard that is kind of a comedy as well. So it's fascinating that like there's a lot of comedies represented at the Oscars this year. They're not traditional comedies except for Barbie.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating that the Oscars is opening up a little bit.
Yeah. I need to watch Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest.
I've seen both. Zone of Interest is like... The Zone of Interest literally feels like it belongs in a museum. Like it feels like like one of those videos or movies you watch in a museum in a dark room for 10 minutes and then you leave.
Yeah.
That's what the Zone of Interest is for like 90 minutes. And it's honestly like one of the like most well executed movies I've ever seen.
Really?
It leaves you with a lot to chew on, and it's also just like a really like visual and auditorial experience. I'll leave it there. I won't spoil anything.
Okay.
But Anatomy of a Fall, I thought was like really well written and really well acted, but I also was like left wanting more. Not in the same way as like Poor Things or anything like that. I understand what it was trying to do, but like as a movie, I was like, this is really good, but it's also not my cup of tea. But the Academy loves it. Like it's gonna win Best Screenplay, I think.
You think so?
I'm pretty sure it's gonna take that home because like it's nominated for Best Director.
What about May December?
Greta Gerwig doesn't have a nomination because of Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you saying that May December isn't going to win its one singular Oscar?
That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
May December has no shot of winning that Oscar.
Well,
Like zero shot.
Charles Melton, make another movie, and then maybe you can finally win your Oscar. Not that he's like been trying for so long. He's made one movie. Like I understand why he wasn't given it, but yeah.
And he's like 24. How old is he?
He's like 27.
Oh, okay, fair. Yeah, he'll be around. I think after this movie, I think he's not only going to be like around in good movies, like I think he's going to be around in good movies with weird directors like Todd Haynes.
Yeah, they've got to give him the Paul Mescal treatment. Like I want that for him. He's like continues to do those kind of like movies.
Yes. Speaking of which, All of Us Strangers. It's on my list. I don't know if
I haven't seen it.
It looks sad.
Yeah. I don't really like movies where it's like they're talking about like how much they love each other and then they cry all the time. Like it makes me sad.
You like it when they're like, I hate you, and then they're crying, and then you're like,
I love that part. Yeah, oh my god, go watch The Other Zoe. That's a good movie. Don't watch it.
I'm scared to look it up. The Other Zoe.
Yeah.
Is this on Cartoon Network? What is
No, it's on Prime Video. It's serious. It's surreal.
Oh god. Okay, the IMDb. Okay, the IMDb description. The first 7 words. Zoe Miller, comma, a super smart computer nerd. That's the first 7 words of this IMDb.
That's like all you need to know about her.
Holy shit, dude. Oh my god. American romantic comedy film. Wowza. Oh, the Queen's University of Charlotte. This is where the film takes place.
Oh, what? They did not set a time or place in that movie. I did not know that. That's why it looked familiar.
Production began in North Carolina. This was filmed in Charlotte. This was filmed in your hometown.
Love. That's why I liked it so much.
No wonder. You just felt a connection to it, and you were like, yes, give me more. All right, I'll check this out in 2026,
yeah.
2027.
I think that's the right time for it. That's when you'll be ready for it.
I'll add it to the long list. The long list.
Mm-hmm.
Next to every Yorgos Lanthimos film.
I told my dad that I didn't like it, and he was like, oh my God, I watched Lobster 4 years ago, and I still think about how it was the worst movie I've ever seen.
That's really funny. I almost want to watch all of his movies just to know if Poor Things was like an anomaly for me personally with him.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, Yorgos Lanthimos. It's a disappointment though, because Yorgos Lanthimos is one of those directors that his movies look so fascinating. And I've never seen them, and I've always been like, I feel like he's gonna be one of my favorite directors. And after Poor Things, which I did not hate nearly as much as you did, but I still was like a bit disappointed by.
Yeah. No, I watched Killing of the Sacred Deer high school, or maybe I was in like my first or second year of college. And I mean, I didn't really understand it, but that wasn't like, it was fine. I still liked it. Like, I remember watching and being like, I don't really know what was going on, but like, I get it. I get the vibes, and I enjoyed the vibes.
Sure. Yeah. I'll have to run through them. He hasn't made that many, which I guess helps the process, but
Yeah.
we'll see. That'll be a 2024 goal. Listeners, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Check out Poor Things. Let's make your own opinion up about it. Clearly, we feel pretty strongly about it, as well as we do. Is May December. May December is way better than Poor Things, we'd say. So
Yeah.
definitely go watch that on Netflix.
Go watch it. And it's like basically free,
It's basically free. You just got to pay like the $9 for Netflix.
I mean, you probably already have Netflix. Right? Everyone does.
Everyone's got a Netflix now. If you don't have a Netflix, like, stop being a loser and get it.
Go buy Netflix. That's what you need to do
Kidding.
first.
Just borrow your friends. And stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of episodes coming up. Priya and I will be doing a Killers of the Flower Moon episode sometime in the next couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
get excited for that. Until next time, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Special thanks to my lovely girlfriend Krupa Patel for the podcast's artwork, and my good friend Kevin Cow for the music that you're listening to now. You can find more of his music on Instagram at Waguang Beats. Thanks, y'all.